Okay. Democrats just had a press conference talking about federal budget issues, sequestration, mandatory cuts that might be coming. They want, obviously, to see an increase in tax rates on the wealthy to pay for stuff as opposed to cutting programs that are going to affect middle class or people maybe living in poverty.
Sure.
Where do you stand on those issues, and what do you do about it?
Well, first thing is, we don't have a fiscal problem in America because Americans are taxed too little. We have a fiscal problem because Washington spends too much. The operative word is budget. We've got to start with a budget. Every American family, every hardworking American family and business has to live within a budget. Why shouldn't Washington have to live within a budget? The state of Ohio has to live within a budget. But yet you've got a Senate that has not produced a budget now in nearly 4 years. We've passed in the House a piece of legislation called No Budget, No Pay.
You supported that?
Absolutely, I supported that. In fact, I introduced a piece of legislation last year that this was sort of modeled after, called Pass a Budget Now Act, which said you either pass a budget by April 15th or you don't get paid. So it was very similar. But it starts with a budget. The federal government, Washington, should tell the American people how they plan to spend the money and how they plan to address the national debt, how they plan to make the spending cuts that are necessary to put us on a path to solvency. Because at nearly $5 trillion in debt, we can't afford to continue spending money that we don't have. And the last thing that we want to do, we can't tax our way out of this problem. You could take 100% of the top 2% and you still couldn't pay down our national debt. Taxing our way out of this is not a viable solution. We've already given the president what he asked for, which was a higher tax rate on the top tier. That's got to be good enough because we're not going to level more taxes on the American people.
So are you supportive of any kind of tax increase moving forward?
No, I think Americans ought to be able to keep more of what they earn, not continue to tax them. We've got one of the most onerous tax codes in the free world as it is. It used to be at the turn of the century, it was 300 pages long. Today it's 65,000 pages long. Every time we help an industry over here or a group of people over here, we hurt someone else. We've got to make our tax code fairer, flatter, simpler, so that Americans get to keep more of what they earn. Because here's what we know, and Mark, the first time you and I ever talked was about a program called the Ohio Sales Tax Reform Incentive, and we learned through that process. Simple, small, but still the principle is the same. When you let the American people keep more of what they earn, they spend, they invest. When they're able to save money on things that they have to have, they channel that into purchasing things that they want to have. That's what will grow America's economy, not more taxes.
Is there any hope, given the political landscape, that you guys can actually get together and do something in Washington? I mean, right now what we see is a lot of bickering back and forth, but not as much compromise.
Well, I beg to differ. When it comes to compromise, I think you can go look at the number of pieces of legislation that has been passed by the House of Representatives that sits idle in the Senate, two budgets, one in 2011 and 2012, that would have balanced the federal budget. You're going to see another budget come out here in a few months that's going to balance in a much sooner period within the next decade. I'm hopeful that the President and the Senate will begin to see the value of sitting down and talking about real solutions where everybody walks away a winner. I have got numerous pieces of legislation that have obtained bipartisan support. Tim Ryan and I up in the 17th District have co-written a letter that's got 110 signatures on it now, asking the Energy Secretary to open up the door to liquid natural gas exportation so that we can
how would that help people in the Valley, for example?
Well, because right now with oil and natural gas in eastern and southeastern Ohio, that is the big deal, the Marcellus and the Utica Shale, but at $3 a cubic foot, the price is so low for liquid natural gas because other countries like Russia and Australia they're going after that world market, and they're providing that. We've got more oil and natural gas than perhaps any other country in the world does. Why doesn't America get to participate in that? Why is that not a resource that we're letting Americans be competitive in? That's going to bring jobs here to eastern and southeastern Ohio, and we can do it in a way that keeps those natural gas prices from going through the roof. You know, we understand that manufacturers are dependent upon that as a raw material, chemical companies, manufacturing companies, and we certainly want manufacturing to come back. But we need to be able to put America back to work. And there are so many factors that come into play. Oil and natural gas is just one of them, with a national energy vision that says, hey, we can become energy independent and secure, and Ohio stands to lead the way with oil and natural gas.